to the official podcast of FCS Fans Nation with your hosts Kyler Neal, Matthew Frazee, and Jamie Williams.
FCS Fans Nation. I cannot believe I'm about to say what I'm going to say. Season 8 of the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Holy moly. Season 8, Jamie Williams, Matthew Frazee, a long slumber for us Grizzly Bears, as we are back on the FCS Fans Nation podcast, coming through your airwaves, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Patreon, coming through a few different formats. Jamie Williams decked out in Montana Grizz gear. So happy to be back on the airwaves. Mr. Williams, how have you been, my man? We're back.
Yeah, I'm back. I was okay, and then all of a sudden, so itchy, burning. I don't understand, but whatever. Yeah. It's been a long off season, but got a lot of vacation time in, working hard, but just been kind of doing the research and ready for this kickoff here because it's about time. We're inside of 3 weeks for week 0.
Yeah, this is truly insane. Everyone always says this. I cannot believe how fast summer went by, but it really did. We're right on the cusp of football season. The Montana Grizz gear that you're rocking tonight, was this sent to you by some loyal fan? There's no way you bought that with your own money.
Oh, of course not. I would never spend money on anything for Montana, but I do want to appreciate one of our fine listeners, Mike Olson, who did reach out and sent this nice shirt. And this hat is actually a badass hat. It's a nice trucker hat. It
is really cool.
Yeah, really cool hat. So appreciate Mike for sending that. Like you said, itchy, burning, but that's what you get from Montana product.
You're going into that year 2 of the FBS. The Dukes, you'll be just fine.
Year 3. We're finally eligible.
Year 3. Yep, that's right. Yeah, I got the Nathan Anderson. He's a coworker of mine out at the guard base. He despises NDSU, and everyone that works around him loves NDSU. And he put this Montana Grizz flag up in his office to kind of throw shade at us. And those guys brought it to me. He doesn't know that I have this. He hasn't known for like 4 months. So I have stolen goods behind me. Nate Anderson would never listen to this podcast. So until he does, he's just not going to know that flag, his flag is sitting in my podcast room. But Grizz fans ain't going to be upset. That's just more gear for them. So,
that's right.
Jamie, this episode is special. It almost has become an annual tradition. It's not the regular format where we have the fan questions that are in there. We love our fans' questions. But we really like to start our year off strong by bringing in yourself to literally rank 127 FCS football teams, which is absolutely bonkers when you think about it. Who puts in the time and effort people put in time and effort to do a top 25. You are the only Stats top 25 voter who's going to put it in to actually put in that effort to rank all 127 teams. We have a special treat that we're going to unveil to the entire FCS Fans Nation here in a minute. Before we do, though, tell me a little bit about your mindset on how you even go about ranking that many teams. How do you even do it?
Well, it's not easy by any stretch, but you got to consider so many factors. You got to look at how did last year end? And people will look and say, oh, this team was 10-2 last year. Yeah, but did they end 0-2? Because if you're looking, and think about this for any football, this is the way I've always thought when I'm drafting fantasy football, doing my FCS rankings, look at anything. Look in football, look at the last 4 games. How did they finish? That makes a whole lot more sense than the whole year. I mean, look at the shirt I'm wearing. If I'd have told you after week 3, 4, or 5 that this team was going to play for the national title, I would have been flamed more than the fact that I dropped them out of my top 25 after week 4. So that's one of the big ones. You got to look at who left. Now, which makes it even more difficult because there's a transfer portal. So who's left out of the transfer portal? Who graduated? Who came in the transfer portal? How does that player mesh with the coaching style and does the coaching style change? All that turnover. I talked to so many people. There have been so many people that have been more than gracious to give me their input on the slice of the world that they know in the FCS. So it's not just me just doing like this. Like I've done more research this year than any other year just by being able to talk to so many people. And that's, a credit to, being able to be on this podcast and have the ability to talk to people that cover nationally, conferences, specific teams, regions, just to be able to lean on all of those resources has made a difficult process a little easier. I mean, I've talked to probably 20 or 30 people, coaches, players, former players, beat writers, you name it. So I've taken the time. So it's never going to be perfect, but it's what I came up with to start the year.
Slowly becoming like the Mel Kiper, the Adam Schefter, just these subject matter experts. I mean, there is just nobody out there. Maybe your Sam Herders, your Craig Haley's. It is hard to find someone who does that much research and puts in that much passion and care. It's really inspiring, dude. And I'm excited to do this. This is a fun episode. So buckle up, FCS Fans Nation. We're going to get right into it. Before we do, though, okay, if you are a loyal follower of FCS Fans Nation on Facebook, on Twitter, or the social media platforms, if that's kind of your thing, you have noticed we've done something weird. We have dropped new cover photos, profile photos, and some weird videos, a little bit of sneak peeks for something. And this is what we're about to reveal. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pop it up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, what has just populated up on the screen is something we want to call FCS Fans Gold, the gold standard for college football fans. Now, before you think this is an evil money grab, I just want to give a little bit of explanation. We're going on we're pushing about to be a decade almost of running the FCS Fans Nation Facebook page, the Twitter pages, and all the platforms, right? We've kind of come up against a problem. The main problem we're having is that we have a lot of outreach from fans who are looking for the original old school kind of first couple years FCS fans experience. They're like, man, the page, it's so overwhelming. There's a lot of posts. I can't find the game threads. I'm trying to keep up with the pick'em challenges. We got to be honest with you guys. We couldn't find a way based off how Facebook allows us to manage groups and do things. We couldn't find a way to make things a one-stop, smaller shop for the OG fans or the really passionate fans without attaching it to a small monthly subscription fee with a lot of benefits. So what is FCS Fans Gold? Very simply, it is a 99-cent a month subscription. And if you pay that, and you only have to pay it for the 4 or 5 months if you want during the season, we don't care. We are going to give you some pretty incredible access to things that normally operate on the page, but now we can operate better with. So if you're watching on YouTube, FCS Gold, and more information is going to come out on this. It runs through Patreon. So we have subscribers already that are signing up on there right now. But this is exactly what you would get access to if you jump onto FCS Gold. 99 cents a month. You get a private gold page access. So there is now a separate Facebook page, separate from the one that has like 25,000 people. And if you're paying the 99 cents a month, you are on that gold page. On that page is going to be elite game thread chat. So we have the ability to use Discord and some of our other features where we can literally communicate with you as the admins, as the podcasters in instant messaging, because we can't really put game threads up like we used to on the big page. This podcast, which is typically filled with, unfortunately, YouTube ads and such, it'll be ad-free, literally free for you to listen to it without any ads. The playoff bracket challenge and weekly pick'em challenge. This is probably the number one thing that makes this stuff worth your money. Again, the more subscribers we get, the more we're going to increase the prizes. But no matter what, even if one person subscribes to this year, the playoff bracket challenge, you got to be an FCS Gold member. To do the weekly pick'em, you got to be an FCS Gold member. And the winner right now will receive a $50 Visa gift card. So basically, if you pay $5 throughout the season, you have a chance to win $50 for the playoff bracket challenge and $50 for the weekly pick'em challenge. On top of that, you get early access to ask podcast questions through the private gold Facebook page. And the main reason why you have people subscribing so early before this thing was even revealed is that the NCAA football 2025 video game, right now, Mr. Hammond is running the FCS Dynasty, and we have players participating in that right now, and you can participate, Xbox or PlayStation players, if you're an FCS Gold member. So long story short, what this is it's a way for people who are looking for the old school experience of FCS Fans Nation on Facebook, a place for you to, yes, contribute 99 cents a month, but in return, get sort of that small, in-depth commenting and interaction you used to get, be part of those huge prize pools for the weekly Pick'em Challenge, Playoff Challenge, ad-free podcasts, early questions, lots of benefits here. So, Jamie, any thoughts on FCS Gold as we're going to be promoting that all season for our loyal listeners here?
No, I think it's a good logical next step. And obviously, as we've always said, this is never, ever going to be and never has been a money grab for us.
Yeah,
Everything
we're not putting our day jobs from
is
this.
going back out.
Mm.
We've been happy to put in our own money to support these challenges before. We'll still do it. This just helps supplement that, make the prizes a little bit bigger, gives a little bit more access in a less messy way, I guess. I was trying to find a good way to say that, but in a less messy way that allows people to join us in a way that they used to back in 2018, where it wasn't so much on the page with all of these algorithms and everything where you can't find anything. So, hey, feel free to join us. Feel free to not. You're not going to upset us one way or the other. Anybody that joins, all it does is help us give back to the FCS as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the biggest takeaway, Jamie, is we got probably 40 to 50 messages last year of people who wanted easier ways to access these things, find this stuff, have that more one-on-one, in-depth conversation instead of the kind of algorithmic crapshoot that Facebook has turned our page into. And this allows us to do it in the much more private setting. So even if there's only 20, 30 of you who sign up, we look forward to us admins and all the podcasters who are on this private page. We look forward to talking to you and then being in those challenges with you guys, even though we're not eligible to win. That being said, you'll learn a lot more about FCS Gold moving forward. So
yeah, and we're not getting rid of the main page. We're not going to ignore it. We'll still be there. It's still going to run the same way. Just a little bit more laser focused here. That's all it is.
Absolutely. So have your experience, whether you want the big page for free or if you want to come be part of the 99 cents for FCS Gold on the other side. We'd love to have you. And that link's going to be below this podcast and everywhere where it's posted. So that being said, nobody cares about the benefits and all those things. They care about Jamie Williams. So Jamie, why don't we get this sucker going? Kyler Neal's surviving work and a hurricane right now. He's trying to hook up the hotel Wi-Fi, I think, from the last message I saw. We'll see if he pulls it off. If not, you're stuck with these two G's. And this is the 2024 season preview. FCS rankings 1 through 127. Jamie Williams, baby. And Jamie, you ready to kick this sucker off?
Let's get her going.
All right, man. Well, I'll just let you flow with it. We'll click right into it, starting with our teams transitioning to the FBS.
Yep. And just before we even go into the rankings, so that you don't have to ask at the end and somebody's still going to be a smart ass and do it, that's okay. You're not going to see the Delaware Blue Hens. You're not going to see the Missouri State Bears. Why? They're transitioning to the FBS. They're still playing mostly an FCS schedule, maybe a full FCS schedule, I would imagine. And then they're going to go to the FBS Light and go to Conference USA next year. They've got their footprint, and good luck to them. I think Delaware will have a modicum of success, similar to Jacksonville State, who's looking really good. Our friends from JSU, Cocky Nation, the Gamecocks, they've done a great job so far. Delaware should be more like that, and Missouri State, we'll see. I mean, they're not in a bad area, but they will not be in the rankings past this notification year. But enjoy watching those teams and see how they stack up this year. But like we said, we won't see them in any rankings. They won't be in the national poll either. The Stats Perform top 25, they will not be in that either.
Quick question before we get out of these FBS transitioners. Would you, I know not Missouri State, but Delaware, would we have had them near the top 25 or in there if they had been ranked?
They would have probably been somewhere in the 13 to 18 range.
Okay.
I think
All
they're
right.
still a decent team. Yeah, there's talent there. They got Marcus Yarns, who's a stud running back, just to name one guy. And they're always going to play good defense out there.
Awesome. Heck yeah. Well, best of luck to Delaware and Missouri State. Definitely will miss those Blue Hens for sure. No offense, Missouri State, but that's a legendary FCS program. So hate to see him going. Oh
Yep.
boy. Welcome to the FCS, Jamie. Who do we have here?
Yep. And on the complete opposite end of that spectrum, we got two new teams joining. So as always, any new teams, they unfortunately at the start they go right to the bottom of the rankings. At 127, we'll have the Mercyhurst Lakers. Really small school. When they say Lakers, it's over on Lake Erie. They're going to play a very hybrided D2 FCS type schedule. Probably going to be underdogs to some D2 teams. I would expect they wind up 127 at the end of the year. West Georgia, by the way, Mercyhurst is going to join the Northeast Conference. I've got that down there. And at 126, we're going to have the West Georgia Wolves out of the UAC. This is a team that's going to be really intriguing. Obviously, they're going to go through their transition time, but they're going to give people problems. This is a solid program. I think we're going to see them move up the rankings some. They got a chance to win 3 to 5 games, but we'll see how they wind up. They might scare some people in the UAC this year. Otherwise, these are our two new teams before we really get into ranking the teams that are coming back, and we're gonna start just like this from the bottom until we get to the top. So if you want to go on to the next and see the bottom from 101 to 125, these are kind of teams I don't expect a whole lot from. These were teams that were in the bottom last year. You'll see, unfortunately, at number 125, you got the Citadel. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Oh, Kevin.
They're just not very good. Hopefully they'll turn it around one of these days. I'm hoping for it for you, bud. The one intriguing team, and I guess I shouldn't say intriguing, a couple of interesting teams here, is Western Illinois. They're no longer in the Missouri Valley.
Okay.
So moving down to the OVC Big South, will they compete? It will be very interesting to see if they were just mired in the Missouri Valley or if they're just really bad. I think they're probably still really bad, but we'll see. And then Northwestern State they had the tragedy last year, cut their season short. Coach resigned. They've got a solid coach, but there's a lot of rebuilding to do there. So we'll see if they can climb out of that doldrum. So those are the couple of teams that in the bottom 25 of the returning teams that I kind of have my eye on to see what they can do. But other than that, most of these teams are going to probably languish down here. There might be one that moves into the top 75, 60 that surprises us, that has a nice season. But, if your team's on here, I'm sorry, but when you go 1 to 127, somebody's got to be 121 to 125. And these are some of those teams.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing to see some of the names in here. I mean, you just look at a San Diego for sure. I mean, wasn't that a team that, and I know we talked about them last year about their drop off a little bit, but yeah, it's just disappointing to see a team like that, which just was doing so well. Called them the Big Sky playoff killer for those few years in a row. It stinks to see them drop so down below. And Indiana State's never been something special to write home about, but they had a year or two where they kind of popped off the screen a little bit. I don't know. These seem to be like the normal cast of characters, though, if you ask me.
Yep.
Doesn't seem like there's a lot of it seems like these are almost on repeat mode. Northern Colorado, any hope for Ben and the crew there? None?
I mean, maybe. I mean, the new coach is Ed Lamb, who took Southern Utah to the playoffs in 2017, kind of wipe off the stink of the Ed McCaffrey years. We'll see. I mean, if our good buddy Ben Schlager, I'd love to see them not be 124, but that's been a team that's just been not very good for quite a while. We'll see. I don't see much from them, but I've been surprised before.
Yeah. This is a ridiculous question, maybe this close in the podcast, but are you more confident that this slide would be more accurate than your top 10? Or are you more confident that your top 10 is going to look better than this one?
I'm probably more confident that this slide's more accurate than the top 10.
Oh man, they're going to
use
that
are bad. We know they're going to be bad. This is full of non-scholarship teams and other,
Yeah.
bottom feeders. So it makes it a little easier.
There's no St. Thomas or UNA, none of those. But maybe when we move on to the next one. So Jamie, here we go. We're into the top 100, 81 through 100. Introduce me to some of these quality teams
Yeah,
for
you're
2024.
getting here into the spot where one of these teams is going to move way up at some point. I don't know who it is. I mean, people will talk about their recruiting and their transfer and all this. Houston Christian has really brought in some guys, but they've really got to show it on the field. I've been hearing, oh, they're going to be really good. They've been really good. The best team they've had was a few years ago. They still only won like 4 games with Bailey Zappi and the twin receivers.
What about the
until they left.
recruiting? The recruiting.
Yeah, I know. The recruiting. If recruiting mattered, Notre Dame would have won 25 straight national titles. So no, don't get me wrong. Recruiting does matter. It's very important, but recruiting rankings mean jack crap to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know who's going to come out of this bunch. But we did have, I believe we had a top 10 team last year or two come from this bunch. Let's see from last year. Let's see where we had. We had South Dakota was number 81 last year.
Really? Okay.
To start the year. Yep, that was probably the biggest. That was the biggest jump I had last year. So that was the biggest start of the season miss. So South Carolina State. Buddy Poe left, is no longer the coach there. He retired, but they've always had some good teams. So hey, we'll see. Maybe that's a team that can jump up and be this year's South Dakota and maybe make a Celebration Bowl again like they did a couple years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So Wofford, no love for them. They were the team that they beat Furman. They took Furman down in that last week. They caused the chaos.
They did, and I mean that was without Dominic Roberto. That was without Tyler Huff. That was just a rivalry game where Furman was licking wounds and Wofford just got them. But I don't see much from Wofford. Somebody in the SoCon always jumps that you don't expect. Could it be Wofford? Sure, but I don't think it's going to be them.
All right, very, very well. Okay, I'm going to be intrigued by the next one here. We're 61 to 80. This is where my confidence starts to rise. I feel like you can start to pick things apart a little bit in terms of having some faith, some pretty successful seasons from last year. Dig into this one a little bit, my man.
Yeah, there's going to be teams in here that they're going to make some people nervous. When Old Dominion started their football program back in the late aughts, their coach was Bobby Wilder, and he did a great job. He developed a solid quarterback that made his way to the NFL. And I'm sitting here rambling because his name just left me. Played for the Washington football team. Probably because it was Old Dominion and screw them, but he did a great job there. He's now the head coach at Tennessee Tech. So going to rebuild that program there and see if they can make some headway up the rankings this year in the OVC Big South. East Tennessee State. I hired Trey Lamb, great coach, away from Gardner Webb, who's been a playoff team the last couple of years with a strong running offense. You might as well just call that team East Tennessee State Gardner Webb. Trey Lamb brought 24 transfers. He brought more transfers from Gardner Webb to East Tennessee State than Kurt Cignetti did from JMU to try to build his Indiana team. So that tells you a lot of teams took a lot of players there.
Oh my gosh!
I'm waiting for North Alabama to pop. Fordham,
yeah,
that's a team to kind of keep an eye on. They do have an excellent quarterback, to CJ Montez. That's one of the guys you're going to really want to watch. Last year he was on my watch list for the Peyton Award early in the season because he was playing great. The rest of the team wasn't that good, but this is a team that playing in a Patriot League. Colgate, they pop every few years. Is this time for Colgate to pop? Southeastern Louisiana. So you're seeing teams to kind of to the point you started making when you flipped it that are a little intriguing. And then the last one that I want to mention that's intriguing from this one is at 76. McNeese State.
I was going to ask about those Cowboys.
Yeah. So their quarterback has a little experience now.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at my shirt, they have Clifton McDowell, who was the national championship runner-up quarterback solid player, little cocky for my liking, but he's there to guide that McNeese State program. We'll see if they can make some noise in a suddenly more intriguing Southland Conference. Our good buddy Rev had the opportunity to go to Media Day and got some good intel, talked to a lot of people, looked like had a great time. Their commissioner, Chris Grant, if you ever watch hockey, I swear he's PK Subban's twin brother. But just I love the energy on that guy. I think he's got the right ideas to take the Southland Conference to the next step. Hopefully he can execute that, and that's going to start with teams like McNeese and others that you'll see along here, like Southeast Louisiana.
Yeah, what a rebound for the Southland. That's the most tight-knit group of teams. They could walk to each other's games. It's going to be incredible.
Yep.
I got to ask about St. Thomas, though. They were all over the page. They were kind of the belle of the ball of the talk. Everybody knew that, they were basically forced out of their division up into the FCS, and obviously they're in the non-scholarship league. But, last year, losing to South Dakota 24-0 on the road. I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. They lost bad to Drake, but overall they finished 8-3. Unless I'm crazy, they know Drake. Drake was 8-0 in the conference. They went 7-1. So still fresh team, should be lower competition, but this is a school and a university that knows how to win and put money and resources into it. I don't know if they're there yet, but 67. Do you see them rising, being right there? I know it's your rankings and it's like, hey, I'm basically asking you to be wrong in some way, but where is St. Thomas's capabilities based off what we saw from last season?
I mean, they've got the ability to be 8-3 again, 9-2, but most of that's going to be against the Pioneer League teams. So that strength of that schedule is not going to allow them to get into the top 25. Really, I mean, even at 7-8-0, they'll climb up there just because when you win games, you deserve to rise up because you're playing well. But at some point, the competition you're playing has to matter. And I do have them a couple spots higher than Drake. I think, and I had this is the one preseason poll that had come out that I hadn't seen yet before then. I think Drake did get the coach's preseason nod in that conference, but I do think St. Thomas is probably on par with Drake, and I've kind of ranked them that way here. But we'll see. They could become a 40-50 team potentially if they win a bunch of games and do it convincingly. Because sometimes if you're playing a crappy schedule and you're beating everybody by 30, you're doing what you're supposed to do, and that deserves consideration.
1,000%. I think Murray State, that would be the surprise of the year. I'll give you that. If they are 78th and not a bottom 100 team, I'll give you that one. They were not very good last year, but maybe year 2 in the Valley.
We'll see. People are talking a little bit about Utah Tech. I don't see it from them either.
Yep. It's also ridiculous if anybody on planet Earth comes back to this podcast and goes, Jamie, I told you we weren't going to be 78th. We finished 52nd. I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
He'll be very surprised.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised. Right. I guess you probably wouldn't be surprised the comments you get from stuff like that.
True, based off what we've seen. All right, Jamie, here we go. Top 60 teams. In fact, I noticed a little national championship trophy sitting next to number 47, the Idaho State Bengals. It was a while ago, but hey, they still claim it. They can. We're looking at some teams here with some history, and we've got some teams that could possibly jump up. Who are we looking at here in 41-60?
Yeah, there's going to be some teams in here that do some things. And yes, you'll notice as we go along, there's a little national championship trophy or multiple next to teams, just so you can see who has won FCS national championships that's still here. And much like Idaho State, a lot of them were won, Matthew, before you were even born. And Idaho State comes in as part of that. Now, I was alive when they did, but I didn't know anything about football yet. So there's a lot of teams in here that are really intriguing to me. And I'm just I'll go from the right side to the left and just hit a few of these teams. I want to see what SFA does moving back from the UAC to the Southland. Personally, I think the UAC is a little stronger league, but I think the Southland has a chance to be a decent league, and you're going to hear that as I talk about a few teams here. We've been talking to Rev. He knows they want to figure out the quarterback position. Colby Carthel said that, and you look at him and say, yeah, no crap, you're trying to figure out the quarterback position. but that's really a position that they're not sure of yet. They've got a couple of guys down there, including Montana transfer Sam Vidlak. Rev, a lot of us don't, including myself, don't have a ton of confidence that he would be the guy. But we'll see where they land. I'm interested to see their season. Monmouth, can they start making some noise in the CAA? I'm not sure quite yet. I think the CAA is going to be one of those leagues that's going to be very top heavy with a lot of really good teams. And then everybody else is going to be pretty bad. Unlike the CAA of the past where there's a lot of depth, I don't think there's as much depth in the CAA anymore. But you got a couple teams like Monmouth and Campbell here that they want to make a mark. They're newer teams. We'll talk about HBCUs. Alabama State was one of those teams that I got a real shock when the preseason poll came out and they were picked as the top team in their division of the SWAC, because I initially had Alabama State, I want to say somewhere in the 80s. And this is one of those rankings where the connections that I've been able to build and people that are willing to talk to me have been able to give me some information to force me or allow me to be able to change things and make a little bit more sense. Alabama State.
Insider trading, huh?
To a certain degree, yes. Alabama State, from what I've been told and what I understand now that I've gone back and, that's part of, when you say you do research, you maybe not, looking specifically at teams, it's, talking to people. And I talked to somebody who's really heavily involved in HBCU, said defense. And then they've got a transfer quarterback coming in that they're really high on. So this might be a team that limits the opponents while at the same time scoring enough to really choke some people out. So Alabama State's a team that I'm going to keep my eye on, and it's going to rise. Now, talking again earlier about the Southland Conference, their number 52 is Lamar. We haven't seen much from Lamar, but Pete Rossamondo did a nice job last year. There's a lot of people that are whispering a little bit about Lamar being a little bit better team. Might they wind up, and this would be respectable, a top 40 team this year? Push a couple teams, make, scare Incarnate Word, scare, somebody else, scare Nichols. I don't know that they're a playoff worthy team, but this might be a team that I look back in November and say, okay, well, I was way low on them. So I'm interested to see what Rossamondo can continue to build there at Lamar. I think there's some potential there. Moving over, Eddie George, Tennessee State at 49. They might surprise some teams in that OVC Big South. You'll see the defending champ of that conference, Gardner-Webb, is just a few ticks ahead of them. A little further up is Southeast Missouri State. So there's a lot of those teams kind of clustered in there. Could be a very, very good season from that conference. Interesting to watch. So keep your eye on Eddie George. He's really building something. He knows, obviously he knows football. He knows what he's doing. Sometimes those great Hall of Fame level players don't make great coaches. Dion. But it seems like Eddie's building a nice program. He's doing a good job there. I'm interested and we'll be happy to see him raise up. Look one tick above, Holy Cross.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Curran's a new coach there because, Bob Chesney did a great job there. So great that he changed one purple for another. I am very excited that Bob Chesney is the coach of James Madison, but I believe he's left Holy Cross in a very, very good place. I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back. I mean, how could you not when Matthew Sluka's moved on to UNLV and Jacob Dobbs on the other side of the ball, all-world linebacker from the FCS that was a semifinalist for the Buchanan Awards, moved on to James Madison following his coach. But there's still a lot of talent at Holy Cross. Idaho State, that's another team I had in the 60s at my initial research, and they've been moved into the top 50 because a lot of people can say that's a top 50 team. That's a top 50 team. Cody Hawkins, I think this is his second year. They just hired another coach here a few weeks ago. His dad, Dan Hawkins, who has stepped down from UC Davis to retire. I guess his son was able to talk him out of it to come help him out a little bit. So I'm interested to see how Idaho State performs there in the Big Sky. Can they take a step forward? It's a very intriguing team. The last one I'm really going to highlight here, our friend Coach Fred, who we got to spend some time with in Frisco, is now the wide receiver coach, assistant head coach of the Alcorn State Braves. That team has a very, very good chance to wind up in the Celebration Bowl. I think that's a very talented team. From a personal standpoint, I hope they do really well because Coach Fred, And you can see him on the Blue Bloods with Zach McKinnell. We'll plug our friends because guess what? We're just here to promote the FCS.
Yep.
Coach Fred and Zach, listen to their show. That they do great stuff. Very well researched. You'll see. But Alcorn State, I'm looking for a big year from them. I'd love to see Rhode Island finally make the playoffs for the first time in forever. But
Yeah, Rhody.
again, they're right there in that middle of the CAA, right before you get to the good teams and above the teams that are really not as good. So they're going to be in that middle. Still have to surprise some people. Anybody that stuck out to you in here that you're surprised about, you want to talk about? What do you think, Matt?
I feel this is like when I look at this slide and I think about 2023. First off, if I think of the historical context of the FCS, there are names here that have done things that for really good seasons, maybe not on a continuous level, but like Holy Cross obviously has had some great seasons in the last few years, just been in the playoffs. Monmouth had a few really good popping years. And Lamar was one of those teams last year going 6-5, right? You're one game above 500. Portland State 5-6, right below 500. And I think this 41-60 has teams that are either going to pop or drop. When I just go right up and down the board, that's kind of what I see. Campbell, we were expecting a lot from them just in terms of the recruiting and others. Yeah, recruiting. And that did not turn out well last season. So keeping them at 53, don't think it's a bad call because maybe it's going to turn around. But I just wish I was a fly on the wall with some of your insider information. And I love the Alcorn State pick up there at 43. Jackson State, bell of the ball just a few years ago. I'm just always amazed by these. I am not as in the know as you. Nobody is, Jamie. I'm just amazed at the teams that will drop and fall. But the thing I will identify from this page is Abilene Christian and some of these others. They were talked about last season. These teams were making a little bit of noise. But are they going to elevate up and take the next step to at least be in that top 25? I think there's a lot of factors there.
Yeah, so. I think at least somewhere between 3 and 6 of these teams will appear in the top 25 at least once, and there will be 1 or 2 that go to the top 25 and don't leave, and there'll be playoff teams. That's just the nature of the FCS, and I'm looking forward to see who that is.
Yeah, maybe they can be a top 16 seed, you never know.
That's right.
2024, new playoff format. Okay, now we're going to have some fun because this is number 26 through 40. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe and like. We'd love that. Now you're talking about teams that could fight to be in the preseason top 25, receiving votes from that stats top 25 that just dropped out. Okay, Jamie, break this one down for me. And I'm noticing some championship trophies on this slide too.
Yeah, we've got 4 championship trophies, including the very first one ever won in the FCS up there at number 30. Well, we're getting to the point where we want to say a little bit about each of these teams. Howard jumped up, had a nice season last year, wound up playing in the Celebration Bowl. Still think that's a solid team. Look out for their safety, Kenny Gallup, their defensive back. You're going to see him all year. Eastern Washington. I'm so sad that Kyler's not here. I'd love to hear what he thinks about me putting them at 39.
Yep,
too high, too low, just right. I'm sure he'll let us know. There's talent there. There always is. Efton Chisholm. We got to meet him in Frisco. Excellent wide receiver. We smoked him at everything. Poor college kid. But looking forward to seeing something out of it. Austin P at 38. They're either going to be really good or really bad. Nowhere in the middle. Not sure which way it is right now. Their coach, energetic Scotty Walden's on to UTEP. We'll see how bare he left that covered. New Hampshire. Their quarterback is Seth Morgan. A few years ago, he was at VMI and really did a nice job there. For playing VMI, was voted freshman of the year in that conference. So he's at New Hampshire now to play for Ricky Santos, who was a great college quarterback and has done a great job coaching quarterbacks at New Hampshire and is now the head coach. I'd like to see if New Hampshire can make some noise in the CAA again and be a playoff team. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Towson, second year under their coach. We'll see what they've got. Again, right there at that middle of the CAA where it could go up or down. North Carolina Central, Darius Richards not there anymore. I don't know who the quarterback is. unfortunately. I'll have to figure that out. But this is kind of like a fair ranking for them. They ended the season in the top 25 last year, but with the turnover and the way things sit there, Trey Oliver's still a good coach. They'll be fine. Eastern Kentucky has a chance. Parker McKinney, not there. They had 2 titles back in the Roy Kidd era, so it's way back. But Eastern Kentucky has a chance to be really good if they could settle in on some of their players. And you'll see there's a lot of teams in this here in the middle here from that UAC, which is going to be a really competitive conference this year. Northern Iowa, I'm off of that. Northern Iowa put them in the top 25 to start train.
You finally did it.
Yep, it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
It took me a while to. Now they're still in a spot here at 33 where if they can prove it, they can get back in pretty quick. Excuse me, real quick, get some water.
Yeah, Northern Iowa is all over that last year. I'm just not a believer in that team.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those.
And they still almost had a shot.
Yeah, they had a shot. They're one of those teams that's always going to be right there. At 32, I've got Southern Utah. I think everybody knows that's a team that's this close to me. Good, my buddy Delane Fitzgerald that go into his 3rd year there. They were 1 play away from winning the UAC last year. They had Austin Peay beat. The game went to overtime. All they have to do is make a field goal in the first overtime, and they win that game. They win that game. They're the USC champions. I expect a better season from them this year. They play UTEP, their 2nd game. Now they're going to go to Utah. We know what's going to happen against a top 15 team. They're going to go play UTEP, their 2nd game. They've got a shot. They play UC Davis, so they start tough.
Yeah, that's
and
brutal.
The cool thing for me for Southern Utah, and I think there's a lot of talent there. Bronson Barron is one of the 3 competing for the quarterback positions at former Weber State. I will be out in Cedar City, Utah, to see Southern Utah play number 29 Tarleton, my preseason 29 Tarleton, who I'll talk about here in a minute. So I'm really, really excited about that trip. I get to spend some time with Coach Fitzgerald and
that's so cool.
Go to a different portion of the country. Yeah. So looking forward to that. At 31, we've got Mercer. Made the playoffs for the first time last year. Then, of course, Drew Connick left. And they've got the coach who was at, I believe, Lenore-Rhyne, which has always been a factory to send coaches from D2 up to the FCS. If you remember the name Mike Houston, he was a coach at Lenore-Rhyne, then went and if this tells you anything, he took the Citadel to a 9-2 season in the playoffs.
That's insane.
And we know what he did in his first year at James Madison. He's now at East Carolina. So Lenore-Rhyne's going to had some coaches go through the ranks. I would love to see Mercer make the playoffs again. It's just a team that I've enjoyed. Florida A&M, I believe, yes, Florida A&M is my highest ranked HBCU team. I still believe in them in the SWAC. We'll see how that winds up there in SWAC East. It's going to be that's going to be a fun conference to watch. I know, there's teams that will make the playoffs and then sometimes they'll get popped, although NC Central did go down and play Richmond well. So the 29 is Tarleton. If you look at the top 25 that came out, Tarleton's in there. A lot of people are high on Tarleton. And I get it. They're finally eligible to the playoffs this year. And they had what would have been the 13th ranked offense, and they bring just about everyone back, including a stud running back who's going to you're going to hear his name all year, Kayvon Britton. But and then what people say is they returned everybody. Well, guess what? They returned a defense that was outside the top 50. Good for them. So, yes, they're eligible. They're going to give a lot of people fits. I have them at 29. I am not ready to put them in the top 25. And I'm on an island. So if we're going to talk FCS hot takes, everybody's saying this is Tarleton's year. My hot take is Tarleton's not a top 25 team yet. I think.
Do you think their schedule? I mean, they had big wins last year. They beat Central Arkansas. They finished the season, on that hot streak. Do you think that their schedule favors them this year? Versus McNeese to start, but Houston Christian, North Alabama, Southeastern Louisiana, Southern Utah, tough game, but Utah Tech, Austin Peay, Eastern Kentucky, West Georgia. That's, are they just going to rack up games because of the schedule or what, what are we looking at there?
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to have to earn it. I mean, there's going to be teams that they'll just run over.
Yep.
But you just mentioned one of the most interesting games of week 0 that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, and that's McNeese against Tarleton State. Now, that game is going to be played in Stephenville, which is at Tarleton. Both of these teams have aspirations to be better this year. One of them is going to start out 1-0, and I'm really intrigued to see that game. It'll tell me a lot about how right or wrong I am. I think I'll get a good thought process right off the jump. And then, like I said, I will see that team in person in early October. So it'll be about 5-6 weeks into the season. Actually, more than that, around that way. So we'll see. Maybe everybody else is right and I'm wrong. That could very well be the case. Coach Fitzgerald did tell me that he understands them being ranked ahead of him right now, but we'll see what happens on the field.
Keeping the sources quiet. I love it. Well, the rivals of NDSU at 28, North Dakota, the Fighting Hawks.
Yeah. They wound up at 24 in the preseason poll, and I'm completely okay with that. You see, that's not far off the 28. Just, I want to see who's going to play quarterback there. I don't know what they've got. I really don't. I want to see it. I think they did just enough last year. I don't know if they're just enough is good enough anymore. So they're outside for me. Weber State, another team like that. Mickey Mental coming on, be it the first second year, I believe there. Again, show me something, Weber State. This is kind of still a respect ranking for me. I'm not very high on Weber State, but they've been good. So maybe I keep them a little higher than I otherwise would have. The first team just outside the top 25. A lot of people are really high on Illinois State. I'm pretty high on them.
Yeah, people are talking them up.
I think it's very, very well warranted. I just wasn't ready to put them in the top 25 yet. They were really close, and they were clearly under consideration. I think everybody on this page could have an argument to be ranked. A lot of them got votes in the top 25 poll, like you mentioned earlier. So we'll see. A lot of these teams are going to be there for a long time this year. There's a lot of playoff teams probably in this list, and we'll see at the end of the season where they wind up. I like where I wound up from 26 to 40. It was a long road to get there. It was really hard, but I'm very comfortable with this.
Yeah, it's a solid list. I love the Rattlers respect still in there. I loved my pick on them last year to end so well like they did. I'm with you on Weber State. I know they returned some guys and things like that, but they lost Eastern Washington last year. They barely beat Northern Colorado. Montana State wiped them off the face of the earth. So I don't know. I understand they were one of the teams that beat Idaho. So everybody was like, they beat Idaho near the end with the 2-point victory. But I don't know if they're going to be, they're probably in this range. I don't know if they're going to be on the cusp of the top 25, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. And I don't want to get out of here without just, and I should have said it when we talked about Florida A&M. That's your defending Celebration Bowl champion.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, my man. Well, right outside the top 10, some of these teams, if you nail this, could be seeded playoff teams. That's very exciting. Number 11 through 25. And boy, we've got some blue bloods in here. We've got some exciting teams and some familiar faces.
Yeah. And there's a lot of these teams have had some varied opinions. A lot of people have some of these teams in their top 10. A lot of people have a lot of these teams way out of their top 25. Elon, I'm not going to let Elon sneak up on me anymore. They're the opposite of Northern Iowa. They're going to be no-fly zone in the secondary this year. It's always going to be a good defense. So Elon will contend there in the CAA this year. Excuse me real quick.
Eastern Illinois too. At 24. Look at this. This to me there's people who, if you're listening to this podcast, myself included, I'm about to learn here about Eastern Illinois. I know they did okay last year, but here we go.
Yeah, I think that's a program that's building. They're on the rise. They're right behind number 23 UT Martin, so it's going to be a good race between those two teams and a few that were just outside the top 40 in that OVC Big South, Southeast Missouri State. I think Illinois State was one of those teams. And I know Tarleton closed late, so I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. The Eastern Illinois is one of those teams that closed really well last year. And I think there's momentum building there. So I'm moderately bullish on them. UT Martin, we'll see. We'll see. I had a hard time with UT Martin. I didn't know where to put them. I had them at 18. I had them at 28. I had them at 20. I settled in on 23. I think after being pretty good the last couple of years, I'm going to show them a little respect to say that they've got a nice program building. We'll see where they go. They could drop like a rock. Incarnate Word, really intriguing. 9-2 team last year, but a very tough 9-2. Talent is there. GJ Kinney's not there, and that showed last year. Zach Calzada's a good player. Incarnate Word has a chance. I have them a couple spots behind Nichols. Whoever wins that game, I think, wins the Southland, which is going to be a fun, like we said before, it's going to be a fun conference to watch. Incarnate Word's got a little bit better defense than you think. They've got to put it together a little bit better because 9-2 looks great, but then they didn't have a very great schedule. They eked out some of those wins. They got popped pretty good by Nichols. So I'm waiting to see on them. There's going to be people. There was a time I had them at 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And I just kept talking to myself out of it. And a lot of people are a lot lower on them. And I just couldn't put them ahead of Nichols.
Yeah, I was at that game sideline because of Andrew and Mr. Markham and Zach and all them. Yeah, that was an intriguing game. Nichols really, physicality-wise, they took it to him.
Yeah. Sanford at 21. SoCon, I expect it to be very good this year. You see this area here is littered with a few SoCon teams, and there's still one we haven't talked about. Sanford's been pretty good. They gave NDSU all they could handle in their last time they matched up a couple years ago. If they had the right quarterback in, Zach Hires, they might have beaten you guys. But that's how they play. That's why they play the game. But Sanford's still a decent team. Nichols with Jalen Spears and Colin Guggenheim. Colin Guggenheim, man, I feel like that guy's been in college forever. But
everybody has now at this point.
Yep. There's a guy I'm going to talk about in a little bit that I feel like has been there longer than that. But Nichols is a solid team. Had a couple down years after being pretty good. I think they're going to be decent again. Have a definite chance at the playoffs. If you're in the top 25, you got a chance at the playoffs, obviously. I mean, there's 24 teams in the playoffs. So, if you're in there, you got a real shot, and there's a solid expectation. Lafayette, Taylor Heineke was the Old Dominion quarterback, by the way. I blanked on Lafayette's running back, who's really, really good. And I hate when I blank on names of people that I should know. But I don't have any notes in front of me. There should be some there, but that's how I roll. So
yeah, it's insane that you don't have notes in front of you, and we're 50 minutes into this thing. You're just rattling this stuff off.
That's just what I do. So, I'm looking for Lafayette to be the class of the Patriot League again and potentially give somebody fits in the playoffs. We'll see. I mean, you can see if you're at 19, you got a shot at being seeded now. So, we could talk about that here just a little bit. UC Davis, Hastings is the quarterback. They got one of the best running backs, Land Larison. Rex Connors in the secondary. Those are the three names you'll hear over and over when you talk about UC Davis. You got a new head coach, but it was a guy that was there after Dan Hawkins has moved on. I struggle with this. You'll hear it over and over. I struggle with where to put this team. They could be a top 10 team. They could be 30. But we'll see. I think there's a lot of talent there. So I think they deserve this ranking. 17 might have the best quarterback in the FCS, not named Mark Gronowski. Cole Gonzalez is phenomenal.
Whoa. That's a big.
Mark's at a level by himself, whether he's that guy or not. I think he's that guy.
I think he's that guy.
Excuse me again.
Yeah.
Cole Gonzalez, even with the lost the Desmond Reed, the running back, the backup played well when Reed was out. He's back this year. That's going to be a really good offense. And Western Carolina, you've heard me for a couple of years talk about them. I swore that was the team I was saying was going to make the playoffs last year, and they just fell off at the end. This team has a chance. I think they're going to be really good, but I still have them third in the SoCon. But SoCon has the ability to get 3 or 4 teams in the playoffs this year. Now, in the past, when we talked about seeds, we weren't there yet. This year, we're seeding 16, and I love it.
Yeah,
because
it's so
now
good.
16 teams being seeded, the other 8 teams aren't, and they'll be regionally placed. But you're not going to get North Dakota State against Montana State in the second round when it doesn't matter. But That was just that. I hated that, but that's how it goes.
Yep.
Here at 16, now I mentioned Colin Guggen has been in college forever. Bronson Yoder, I swear that dude's been there since 2012. He might be my age, but he's back again for William Mary. He's had a couple of injuries, so plus the COVID year, so that's why he's back. But that's a good thing for William Mary. Leadership. They have probably. I'm going to get flagged for saying this, but Charles Grant is the best offensive lineman in the FCS. He's at William and Mary. I get Gus Miller's really good. North Dakota State has excellent guys. Grant's a stud. He's going to play at the next level. He's going to lead that running game. William Mary's they've got to stay healthy. Now, I do want to see what their defense has. Mike London has always coached good defenses, so I expect it to be good. But Nate Lynn's not there. John Pius has moved on. So who fills those voids? I still think William Mary has a chance to be really good. Now, 15. Central Arkansas, by talent alone, deserves to be number 15. Will Seiler, love you, buddy, but your team has done less with more than anybody over the last few years. With the talent that is throughout that roster, there's no reason that team should have finished where they did last year. This team should win the UAC easily. They've got multiple guys that can have the ability to play at the next level. Can they put it together as a team? I've said for years, I'm not a big Will McElvain fan. I wanted to prove me wrong. He had a nice year last year. He's got to play better this year. Darius Hale, Shonderick Powell, that's probably your best 1-2 punch of running backs in the FCS. No disrespect to Nichols on this list. Central Arkansas, if they put it together, that's a top 10 talent team. They dropped to 15 because their results haven't matched the talent. If that doesn't happen again, they got some thinking to do. Youngstown State, they returned to the playoffs last year. You can see there they have 4 national titles, all way back, but still, that's a blue blood program. They got beat pretty bad by Villanova in the playoffs last year, but they worked themselves into the playoffs. That's a really good team and obviously a good conference. I expect good things out of them. Sacramento State, Cade Bennett, good quarterback. I don't even think they're number 13. If I revise this, they would drop. If you say you got to move everybody around now, nobody can stay where they are. Sacramento State would be a team that would drop.
Wow.
But they've been good for the last few years. I mean, they've had this. Troy Taylor's moved on to Stanford, so they get some respect because there's some talent there. The talent's not gone. It's a good team, tough conference. Albany, they put the fear of God into a lot of people last year. They had an awesome season, but they got a great running back coming back, Griffin something. I think see, I'm losing the names now. It's getting late. And I'm old.
It's ridiculous. You can't remember all of this.
It's terrible. Reese Poffenbarger, their quarterbacks. They got to have a new quarterback. They did pick up one in the transfer portal, and I believe it might be Zevi Eckhouse. I don't remember. But Poffenbarger went to Miami to play down there with Cam Ward. So there's a lot of questions to Greg Gattuso's team. But Gattuso is one of those really underrated coaches that, despite the fact that you don't think he might have the most talented roster, he always makes more out of it than he can. If Greg Gattuso was the coach of Central Arkansas, they'd be a top 5 team. But yeah, Albany, they had a lot of losses on their defense, just transfer graduations. So they ended the year last year at number 5. And I don't see them as a top 10 team, but they could be. 11, Furman, another team. Tyler Huff's not there. We'll see again. I think there's still a lot of talent on Furman. They're still going to have a solid defense. So I think they deserve the number 11 ranking. You can see we still haven't gotten to every SoCon school, but they'll compete. They'll be solid. SoCon's going to be really, really fun to watch. Furman's going to be one of those teams to keep your eye on just because I don't know what to expect from them, and there's your 1988 champion there. Now, before we get to the top 10, hit the music.
I think we should, because I'm feeling a little hungry, buddy.
I'm hungry.
Taco King, coming to you from bright and sunny Fargo, North Dakota. It's time for a taco bet, and time for you losers to pay up.
Oh, Brian Thompson, who, by the way, we've already booked Frisco with, which is incredible. And that brings us to our first taco bet of the year. All right, Jamie, I haven't read this. I did not read this. So
All right.
do the honor here.
All right. So last
Jamie's-
year,
all right, go
out of
ahead.
the top 25 in my initial ranking, my preseason rankings, 15 of them wound up finishing in the top 25. It's pretty good, 60%, not bad. 5 of my initial top 10 finished in the top 10. So I've got 2 Taco Bet over-unders here.
Okay.
Over-under 15.5 of the initial top 25 that we're talking through here will end the season there. Over or under.
15.5 of the teams in the top 25 end the season in the top 25. Oh man, your top 10 is pretty solid. I bet you hit at least. Here's the problem: you're going to hit 7 of those for sure. And then I have to bank off of. Can I go back the slide?
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, go back the slide here. Jeepers, Youngstown, Sacramento. I like Furman, Incarnate Word.
There's going to be 2 or 3 of these teams right here that are going to stink.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna go under there. I'm gonna go under.
Okay.
I think
so 15.
And I'm gonna go barely. I think you'll have 13 or 14 of these teams, but I don't know if you're gonna get 6. Yeah.
I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to go over on that one. Not by much, but I'm going to go over, dog, on it.
Yeah, that's a good line, by the way. 15.5 is tough because the top 10 you feel really confident in, and then you hit the next 15 and you're like, boy, this could go anywhere. The problem is your 26 through 30, 26 through 40 was so good.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's so many teams that are rankable now. So that gap is closed. Like the top teams are the top teams.
Right.
But from 7 or 8 to 45, good luck.
Absolutely.
So the other portion of this. So last year, 5 of my top 10 finished in the top 10.
Yep.
Over under 4.5 of the 10 teams that we haven't talked about will be there still.
Can I get my answer at the end of the podcast? Can we cover them?
Yeah, we'll wait till we go through and then we'll come back to that one. And you see there's a little note at the bottom.
Yep.
Out of my initial top 25, 23 of those teams finished in my top 40. So
Wow.
it wasn't that far off.
Yeah.
Now, I
that's
don't know if
incredible.
that's a credit to me. Is it my bias? Is it the teams? I don't know. And then 3 of the teams from the initial top 25 actually started outside the top 70, one of those being Lafayette, including the final number 4, South Dakota, who started 81, and Albany finished 5, started 74.
Wow.
So there's some of the stats that I looked at from last year I like to, revisit how did I do. 60% of the initial 25 finished there, and with a lot of variables. I'm happy with that. I'm proud of that.
Yeah, you should be, man. That's incredible. Most people can't predict the top 10 correctly and get 3 teams right. So this is insanely impressive. And moving into that top 10, Jamie, are you ready? Here we go.
Let's go.
The big moment. Number
All right.
10, S8E1, Southern Illinois.
And they do have a championship. You'll see down there. This team's got a lot of talent. It's been talented for years. The coach is very good, Nick Hill. They did lose a lot, so I'm nervous about this one. I don't know if we're talking Taco Bet of how many teams stay in the top 10. This is one that probably winds up falling out, but maybe not. They got a tough schedule there, but they'll be there. But I think the top 10 might be a little high, but I'll stand behind them at 10 right now.
Yeah, Southern Illinois is going to be a team that they have some favorable matchups. I'll give them that. I'm not convinced Missouri State, because they're going up the FBS, is any good. But Indiana State, Missouri State, Murray State, they got SEMO coming to town. Illinois State, they get to host at home. Incarnate Word, they get to host at home. So, Austin Peay, they've got enough there. I don't know what's going to happen when they run into South Dakota State, North Dakota State, like the same boogeyman that they always run into, right? And then, yeah.
But none of those teams, you haven't seen those yet. So there might be a little, that's part of the justification here is you look at that schedule and they've got the ability to win the number of games that'll keep them right there.
True. Yeah, that's a good point. It's just, they seem to have the same thing every year. Can they get over the big dogs on their schedule? I guess, pun intended. Okay, number 10, Southern Illinois coming in there. Number 9, Jamie, look away. The Richmond Spiders. I know it burns to even have that red piercing your eyes.
It hurts, and I'm so mad at Sam because he made me defend him because he's got him a lot lower. He said he wasn't as high on them. It's a good team. They always have a good defense. They've got good receivers. I know they don't have a settled quarterback right now, but either choice they have is good. I think the quarterback's going to be Kyle Wickersham, and if he doesn't win the job, then that's not a bad thing because the guy's better than Kyle Wickersham, and Kyle's pretty damn good. So I think Richmond is going to give a lot of people problems in the CAA, and it pains me to talk good about Richmond. They're going to be very good this year, in my opinion. Last year I was down on them, and they wound up making the playoffs. They're one of those teams that finished strong.
And I think you have confidence right now. It's not far off, but they go to Albany last year and get demolished in the playoffs. Yep. Yet you have Albany taking a little step back. You've got Richmond a little bit higher. Is that because of returning class here?
Yep. I think Albany just lost too much. I think Richmond's got a little bit more continuity, a little bit more of a track record. Always has a better defense, and with me, defense matters more when I'm thinking about forward projecting and what I think a team will do.
Yep.
Because if you can keep points off the board, you don't have to score as many.
Absolutely. Yep. There we go. That's math, ladies and gentlemen.
Maths. Yep.
All right, Chattanooga, the Mocs coming in here at number 8.
I love Chattanooga this year.
Okay.
Another team that finished well. Chase Artopias transferred and played very well last year. I expect him to take a huge step forward this year. I think Chattanooga is poised to be really good. I think they win the SoCon. They were pretty darn close last year. They made the playoffs. I believe they made the playoffs. Or maybe they're the team that got left out. I don't remember, damn it.
Nope. No, they were a playoff team last year.
Okay, I thought so.
Yep.
And I really like what Chattanooga brings back. I know they lost something, but they've got. If you read Sam Herder's article that he posted the other day about anonymous responses, when they asked which player not on your team would you want, darn near every single coach picked their defensive lineman. Jeez. And good defensive linemen are hard to come by. Chattanooga, they got a stud on each side. I think Artopias will take a step forward. And if I'm saying your name wrong, Chase, I apologize, but you'll make me say it right this year. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, for sure. Georgia State, they're going to travel there. It's an FBS matchup. They're going to go lose to Tennessee, but then at Georgia State, can they win that game?
We'll see. Georgia State, typically not a great team. They do have a good new coach. They've pulled in a lot of good transfers. I still don't think they're going to be all that good, but Chattanooga will give them a game kind of like Rhode Island did last year.
Yeah, if Chattanooga is going to win, they're going to earn it. They're going at ETSU, at Furman, at Western Carolina, and they're playing Samford at home, but that is not going to be an easy schedule for them by any stretch of the imagination. So should be fun to see what the Mocs do. Oh boy, Mr. Hammond, the Vandals with playing for that new potato trophy and everything else. Are these individuals going to vandalize the opponents, which is what their name came from? What do you think, Jamie? There's some portal losses here. There's some big names off the roster.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Jack Lane will be just fine at quarterback. I don't know that he'll be to the level of quarterback play that they've had the last couple of years. Giovanni McCoy, the running back transferred. Hayden Hatton's not there.
You got to have faith in coaching here, though, right?
I do, and Jason Egg is the reason they're number 7. He really is. I think this might be their high watermark. I know a lot of people aren't nearly as high on Idaho this year, but again, coaching matters. They've got an excellent one. They even had a special guest out at practice a few days ago. I had a national championship coach show up with a visor, and it wasn't Steve Spurrier.
No.
So Idaho's, there's still talent there. So I think they deserve to be ranked here with a lot of wait and see.
Yeah, they're going to earn it if they're going to. They're going to start with Oregon, so we'll see how that goes. They're going to go to Wyoming. We'll see how that goes. Albany's going to come to town in their third opponent. And then throughout the season, they're going to travel to Montana State. They're going to travel to UC Davis. That is a brutal slate for Idaho. So probably a playoff team, but if they're going to earn seed and high respect, boy, it's going to be tough right off the bat. So we'll see how it goes. Not
Other
number
way.
8. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jamie.
Yep. Nope. I said other way. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go to number
All
6.
right. Number 6 is Villanova. Very high on Villanova. Very high. Again, starts at the quarterback position. Connor Watkins. He's awesome. That team is always solid. They're really good. You can talk about the elements all you want. Both teams had to play with them. They gave South Dakota State one hell of a game. The way the Jackrabbits were running through everybody, Villanova gave them one hell of a game. And they opened the season against Youngstown State.
You stole it from me. I was going to say it during Youngstown. I'm like, talk about a game to start the year.
Yeah. Yep. It's a Thursday night, week 1. So that's going to be really cool because both of these teams expect to be very good. I expect Villanova, outside of their game against Maryland, which is their FBS game.
Yep.
They could very well win every other game. And that includes playing Delaware at the end of the year. But if you look at their CAA schedule, my Lord, Kevin Marshall's going to have a field day with this schedule. And he's right. It is Charmin soft. It is so bad. They don't play Richmond. They don't play William and Mary. They don't even play. They don't even play Rhode Island. But they get a lot of the bottom teams.
Oofta.
There's no reason this team shouldn't run through the CAA. This is a top 5 seed.
So they're going to need that Youngstown win, though. That's going to be essential if you're going to have that.
Huge. Not only are they going to have to beat Youngstown, they're going to probably have to do it by 20 points for people to give them respect after that moving forward. Because they're saying, oh, well, who have they played? And they'll be right, most likely.
And
but that's a really good team. So they're going to need to go in there and beat those teams by 20 and 30 points to show them we're stepping on people's throat, doing what we're supposed to do.
They did that with Youngstown last year in the playoffs, so we'll see if they can repeat that sort of thing. So, well, Villanova number 6, top 5. Okay. South Dakota. This is probably the most common spot for them. I think 5 or 6, but people love South Dakota here. I've seen people like the Rev and others talk some major smack about this team's capabilities. Why are people so high on them? Why are some people not? I'm curious about South Dakota.
It's track record. They've been a team. Knocking the mic over. They've been a team like this, but they return a lot. They got a stud tight end. They got a good quarterback. Bowman played really well last year, and I think what people are looking at is how many games were pretty close last year, and the problem was they got their butt kicked in the playoffs by a team that they had beaten in the regular season. I think you remember those games.
Yes, I remember them quite fondly.
Well, the second one you remember fondly. I mean, they wound up 10-3, but when you get down into, there were a lot of games that, like, they only beat Indiana State 70-3, but they beat them about 14. They didn't score a lot of points. They only beat Southern Illinois 14-7, North Dakota 14-10. So when you're looking at teams like this, you look at that and say, eventually that luck goes the other way. And that's what a lot of people are seeing, and why they're putting them 10-15. I think they're a top 5 talent team, and I think they deserve to be here.
I think they're going to earn it if they're going to get what people are talking about, because, they're going to go to Wisconsin. They're going to lose that game. Doesn't matter. But you look at the Valley schedule, they're going to play Southern Illinois, which, is a tough team, one of your top 10s. They're going to play UNI, who's always scrappy. They have to go to Youngstown. They have to go to South Dakota State. They have to go up to UND. And UND, for some reason, is a monster at home and terrible anytime they're outside of that gross stadium. And then they play NDSU at the end. It's the Valley, so it's not surprising, but how it lines up for them, that's a brutal slate. So,
and the thing that's going to hurt them is they start the season against Northern State right off the bat, a non-counter.
Right.
And that's going to work against them.
Absolutely it is. Well, here we go. The top 4 I have seen, from Sean Anderson's, the Sam Herders, to Revs. The top 4 is always intriguing. So I did not dig into these. So here we go. Montana State. Okay. Some people have them 1. Some have 2. You've got them at 4. Why so, Jamie?
They got a first place vote in the top 25 poll, courtesy of Mr. Sean Anderson.
Unbelievable.
And Sean had Sean's defense, and their video cut off, but he tweeted it out. Sean had a solid reasoning why he put them at number 1. I'm not with him, but I understand. I don't like Tommy a lot to the level he does. I think Tommy's fine. He's gonna run most of the time. I don't like the passing game right there. There's no Sean Chambers. Tommy gets hurt a lot, but this is one of the top few offensive lines in the FCS. I believe there were 2 All-Americans, one first team, one second team, I believe. They led the country in rushing last year. They'll probably do it again. They've got a good enough defense. I can see why some people might rank them a little higher. I can't put them any higher than 4 because I was all poised to say, I think this is a team that's going to take a step back. The more research I did, that offensive line is not going to let them take much of a step back. They're going to maul people.
Didn't they lose some to the portal? Didn't they lose some offensive linemen there?
A couple, but the guys that are still there played a lot. Connor Moore, the left tackle, was a freshman last year.
Yep.
He didn't leave. And he's going to do nothing but get bigger and better.
And
So-
under Brent Vegan, it's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've seen that. Vegan's a hell of a coach. Hell, he coached Josh Allen, so that says a lot right there.
That's true, especially as a Bills fan.
Yep.
Well, let's get to the Grizz so then we can get
All
to
right.
NDS. Jamie Williams,
Yep.
North Dakota State at number 3. That's a lot of trophies on that bottom left.
There's a lot of trophies on the bottom.
Did you intentionally upload this as like a 1080p, a little less quality here, just to throw some shade? Is this intentional?
No, to be honest, I could not find the right logo to come in like I could
Yeah.
for everybody else. NDSU and South Dakota State, I could not find a good logo to put in, so I had to do the best I could, and this is the best I could find. I don't know why. They didn't have the opaque logos, the transparent logo that I could use. So
I can send you an SDSU logo. It's like an Aztec looking thing. I'll send it to
oh,
you.
that's yeah. That's right.
Yep. Okay, so you are probably on an island here. You've got North Dakota State number 3. I actually think you have a lot of good reasons. I'm sure I've thought about them as well, but let's have it. What do you got?
Yeah, a lot of people have them too. I mean, they got a couple of first place votes. I think they got 3, and that's fine. I mean, Ken Miller's gotten better every year. He's still pretty good. I mean, but it's kind of like Josh Allen light. You've either got really good Cam or really bad Cam. There's hardly never in the middle. Your leading rusher last year, he's back, right?
No.
Your leading receiver last year, he's back, right?
No, and that was a
No.
huge loss.
Yeah, I think Joe Stoffel's going to see a lot of volume this year.
Yeah, absolutely will.
So I mean, the offensive line is always going to be good. The defense returns a lot. I might go ahead and say, the Buck Buchanan Award isn't often won by defensive backs, and it might. Gosh, has it been since Rasheed Mathis way back? North Dakota State has a guy that has a very good chance. Cole Wisniewski is a stud. He's gonna make a lot of passing games look bad. A lot of running games look bad too. So I think the defense is still there. I just have questions about the offense. I didn't see they took a little step back last year. They had flashes. I want to see it. I think they're the number 3 team coming in. People have them 1 and 2. I've seen a couple of 4s. I'm okay with wherever you put them as long as you put them in the top 4. They're still North Dakota State. They still deserve the respect. They've earned the respect. My question to you is, what do you think going from Entz to Polasek is going to do?
Yeah, I think you are undoubtedly going to see a rise back to the old school discipline of North Dakota State. I think if anything else, I'm not an Entz hater by any means, but Entz was a more of that progressive, modernized guy. He let things go more lax, and I think Polasek brings back that Craig Bowl mentality. I think kind of what Montana got back with Bobby, I think you're going to get that back with North Dakota State. Polasek always, and he's just preaching it like a psycho, is physicality. You're going to get that NDSU physicality back on the field. Now, will that match what they currently have at the cornerback position? Will the linebackers hold up as much as some of those headhunters in the past? I don't know. But I do think that there is going to be, I think coaching and mentality is going to change a lot for what you'll see from North Dakota State this year. The problem is that what you're going to say about Montana, I think, is legitimate to keep them at number 2 at this point. And I think North Dakota State is going to face things that Montana is not in the regular season. So seeding can matter. I think this is completely fine. NDSU anywhere on 2 or 3. I couldn't see anybody. I don't understand a Montana State or others above them for this upcoming year. But I can see Montana, and you'd be crazy to put them above South Dakota State. So I don't mind it at all. I'm not upset at that. They kind of have to prove it in a few ways.
And they will. They either will or they won't. I think they will. I think there's a chance they take the marker back. I mean, for sure. So
yeah, there's Eli Green. I'd be feeling way more confident if Eli Green had not transferred the day before the portal closed. That is a game-changing player that you probably needed to beat Colorado, that you probably need to make those big plays in some of those moments. They still got some good receivers, but that is a big loss, and I think that within itself actually hurts NDSU a lot. So
and the defense being, I think you'll return 9 starters. Is that right? 8 or 9 starters on the defense.
Yeah, it's pretty they return. NDSU brings back a lot, and a lot of those 6-year seniors decided to come back. So
start.
Will that put them up by SDSU? To be seen. So, well, let's get on number 2. This is South Dakota. Of course, it's not. Montana Grizzlies.
Yeah,
2 titles. Okay, here's your chance. Why are they above NDSU? We all know why they're below SDSU.
Yeah. And the first thing people are going to point at is like, well, we don't know who their quarterback's going to be. And I get it. I don't either. And it matters, but everybody else is back from a skill position standpoint. The defense is still good. They played about as well defensively as they could have in the national title game. Offense just scuffled. I know Clifton McDowell being hurt did hurt them. Now, if he would have healthy, like you said, I don't think they win still, but they might have moved the ball a little bit better. Junior Bergen, dude's a problem. Eli Gilman's back. And the wild card for me that I think a lot of people forget about, they have tight end Cole Grossman coming back, and he missed the entire year last year. That's just another weapon to help whoever wins that quarterback battle ease in. And when you look at their schedule, there's a chance this team just floats to 12-0. There's going to be tough games. They got to play the brawl, of course. That they got to go through the Big Sky. They'll probably drop one, but they have the ability to win every game. There's a really talented team there. I don't know if there's a chance they could be back in Frisco again. I think they deserve to be number 2. If somebody has them 3, I'm okay with that. But I think they deserve the number 2 ranking coming into the season.
I think the question is going to be, if they're undefeated, they're undefeated. That's fine. I think the question at the end of the year is going to be pretty simple when we're going to the playoff seeds. This is crazy in the preseason, but it is what it is. I think the question will be, do you take a 1-loss Montana team and do you put them above a 2-loss SDSU or NDSU? And one of those 2 losses is to it's either Colorado or Oklahoma State. So it's an FBS loss. Based off of that, who is the one? NDSU or SDSU could be the one, right?
Yeah, those names. I think that in that instance, I think they'd still be the one, and Montana would be the 2.
So that's the thing is like, do you have to travel to Grizz or do you have to travel to the Fargo Dome or to Brookings, which when these teams are this close and you go to 2 overtimes, it might just be the home environment
that has
the impacts. So yeah, it's going to be fun. Number 1, of course, here is South Dakota, right? South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits.
San Diego State, yep.
And an incredible cast of crew still coming back, and that guy, correct?
Yeah. I mean, Mark Gronowski is back. I mean, you could go full stop right there. But they got Gus Miller. They got Amar Johnson. They got Griffin Wild. They got Adam Bach. They got Tucker Large. They got Dallas Beeman. So, here's my hot take that just because I feel like riling people up. So back in the code in 2020, a lot of people are saying Sam Houston State gets an asterisk because not everybody played. It was a weird season, right?
Yep.
So shouldn't South Dakota State have an asterisk for last year because all of those guys should have already graduated?
Oh, yeah. Wait.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I know. Just settle down, guys. I mean, it's
That's not against SDSU. It's against the mentality.
It's only partially true, but, it's tongue-in-cheek. I got to rile people up.
Yep.
But, yes, but to that point, a lot of guys have moved on. A lot of guys are moving on to the NFL. They still got a lot of seniors. They still got a lot of talent. And they're so happy. They still have Mark Gronowski. They should be. I think he made the right decision because he's going to be better off excelling at South Dakota State than playing at Northwestern, which he could have still gone somewhere like that. And I say Northwestern because that's where he's from, where everybody thought he was going to go. He would have been fine, but he's going to shine. He's got a chance to win back-to-back Walter Payton Awards. He's got some more zip on the ball. He's hit the weight room apparently. He's working on his accuracy, which has always been a thing. He was pretty good. He threw a really bad interception in the national championship game that as soon as it left his hand, I think all of us sitting where we were knew it was.
Yep.
But he persevered through that. He played great. He was the most outstanding player of that game, as he should be. He's the best player in the FCS. They're the best team in the FCS. Rogers is an excellent coach. There's nowhere else to put them. They're the number one team in the country. And I don't always adhere to the team that won's number one until they lose. But that's got to be the case here. And even if they lose to Oklahoma State, unless NDSU beats Colorado, I don't see how you move them off of this line for that game.
Yeah, no, not for the FBS loss. And stealing Sam Herder's words from Hero Sports, 8 of their top 13 tacklers are returning on this team. I know they're losing people, but just right there, you're like, holy moly. They're going to have a great running back. My X Factor running back 2 years ago, NDSU, SDSU, and the Natty, Amar Johnson. He's going to be a freak. And then, of course, you got Mark Gronowski. He's going to make the other guys there. And they've been building the offensive line, the depth, just like NDSU does. They'll turn those hogs out. So South Dakota State's going to be just as vicious as they were before. The question's really going to be the finale episode for us for season 7 in January was a Bison Bunny bout in 2024. I think they're both going to walk into Fargo with an FBS loss personally. And I think that game is going to determine an absolute ton. So not going to make that prediction now, but that's going to be a big deal. So
yeah, it's going to be big.
SDSU will be in the top 10, as will the Grizz,
Okay.
as will NDSU. This is the end of the year. I like your Villanova pick. Yeah. Oh, you did 4.5?
4.5.
Yeah, I mean, I think Montana State with the new seeding and everything. I'll go. Oh man, I want to. Jeepers. I'm gonna go over just because I like you. I'm gonna go over. That's hard. I wish I could pick.
It feels like it's gonna be 4 or 5.
It feels like it's gonna be 4 or 5. That's a really good line.
And that's okay because number 8 might wind up number 11 or 12, and we're still okay.
Yeah, that's good, dude. That's high quality stuff. Okay, well, I'll mark those taco bets down for the Taco King, and we'll get those rolling.
Yeah,
Jamie Williams. It's just so impressive to me that somebody would take this time for any league in anywhere and do this kind of research. If you made it through this whole podcast, which you're crazy if you didn't, just the knowledge that you've given me tonight and anybody who listened to this, they're going to walk in their tailgate circles and someone will say something stupid or just like uneducated, and you have given them ammo to just come in hot about a player or a reason. And I'm excited to see how this plays out for you. So, I mean, what do you think? How do you feel like the season's going to go for you with your 127 rankings?
Obviously, the way they started is exactly how they're going to finish. No, I think I'm comfortable with where everybody's starting.
Yep.
And it's based off of what we know right now. Things happen. Players, had gotten better than you realize. People underperform. People that did great last year aren't as good. And the opposite. Injuries. There's so many variables. It's going to change. You got to start somewhere, and this is where I'm starting. I'm happy with any of the feedback. Of course, I know I'm going to get a lot of, I can't believe you have this team ranked here. Guess what? It's their team. Mm-hmm. Every time. It's their team that I'm sleeping on. And that's okay. You're supposed to support your team. I'll give you my reasonings. You can give me yours. That's fine. You convince me. I can be convinced. And we'll see. The games are going to matter. I don't just, that just because I've got them here doesn't mean I'm right. I'm more than happy to take a team from 75 to 5 at the end of the year.
Absolutely. Yeah,
you admit it. That's what they'll be.
Yeah. Nobody's going to be perfect with this stuff. Predictions there's no way. And people who come out at you at the end of the year, they're like, I told you this. okay, you told me in week 11 when we knew everything about everything that was happening, but congratulations on going out. No, man, very impressive work. You've just made it so much more educated for the FCS. Kyler will listen to this and he'll actually maybe know what he's talking about just a little bit. You know, facts are hard for him.
He'll talk his trash like he does, and that's okay. That's what I want him to do. We love him for it. That's why we like him.
Yep, I agree.
Everybody needs to heal.
Well, if you want to hang out with the admins more, you want to hang out more on our podcast, get your questions in early. Don't forget to look for the links for FCS Gold. More information coming on that. But the Patreon is up, so if you're ready to be part of the elite group for FCS fans, we'd love to have you there. Besides that, Jamie, that will end our season 1 pilot. Season 8, episode 1, the pilot episode. And do you have any final words before we are off this weekend? But next weekend after that, we're going to return in a normal format about top 25 and preseason questions for all the fans to ask. Yeah. Do you have any parting words here as we let people bask in this baby?
Yeah, well, next week we'll take the week off because I'm a redneck and I'm going to the NASCAR race. So the week after, like you said, we'll start with the questions, and at the end of that week, we've got football.
We got football, baby.
That week, there's so of intriguing games. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to my trip to Utah. I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm just looking forward to seeing a lot of FCS football, FBS football. I've still got my season tickets to JMU, but I'll juggle it all. We'll get it done. We'll release a top 25 every week. This whole ranking will be posted tomorrow. At some point, I would need to get through this episode so people could listen. Then we'll put it out. Top 25 is out for the poll. So we'll see what mine looks like versus it. I'd love to hear all the feedback, good, bad, and different. I'm a big boy. I'll argue with you. I'll tell you why I think what I think. But just make sure you have a reason.
Absolutely. Make sure you have a reason and we can understand anything. So appreciate everybody for listening to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. We cannot do this without you. We look forward to another incredible year of football, of all the fun things that are coming down the line. All those traditions are going to happen just like you expect them from the last 7 seasons. Season 8 is underway. Jamie, take us out, my man. You earned the title.
Hey, there's only one word left to say. Boom.
Thank you for listening to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast on your preferred listening platform, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google, or even YouTube. And make sure to follow our FCS Fans Nation social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you for listening to the premier podcast for FCS football. Boom.
Allison literally texted me this. Are you telling us to be quiet when I was banging the hammer for the Montana flag? I said, I am not. She said, oh, we heard knocking, and I thought it was you saying to be quiet.